What are your crimes, Mark? Yes, what are your crimes, Mark? Did you beat your wife? Did you kick a pup? We'll find your crimes and rake it up. Did you laugh at Hubbard? That's not nice, and now you'll have to pay your price. So what are your crimes, Mark? What have you done? Oh, it's too late now. Fair game's begun.
Hello. Welcome. We're live. What you should have heard was my theme song. Unfortunately, in clearing the cache, it seems to have deleted all the videos that I have lined up here in StreamYard. So, therefore, it's messy. But hello to you all. Let's see who's here. Dawn. Hi, Dawn. And John. Hello. So the two of you, I hope, are not too bored by this entire process. I have a clip that I'd like to play for you, if I can. I hope you'll find it interesting. Let's see if anybody else wanders in here before I get to it. Unstoppable SP just showed up. Hello to you. Nice to see you. Last week, Tony Ortega did a little story about Patty Moher as a volunteer for OSA. And I had talked to her about this in 2011. So I dug up that clip. I was going to play it the night that Tony put up that article, but I could not get it prepared in time. So it's given me a chance to improve the audio and video and stuff like that. So I have this ready to play tonight. Hopefully, unless everything else falls apart. You know, CBS should really consider putting this on in place of The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, because this is a lot cheaper, even though I can't promise we'll get on the air every night at 11:35. That's a bad idea. I want Stephen Colbert to stick around. Sheppy K. Hey, Sheppy K says, hello. Love your work. Appreciate that. Sheppy reminded me of Shecky Green, who was a great comic when I was a kid. Well, David is here. Mr. Miscavige, COB, nice to see you. Hope everyone is upstat this evening. Oh boy, are we ever. What do you have to say tonight, Prunes? Well, I say welcome. It's time for me to be man enough to say that, COB, you're correct. Scientology is the way. Unfortunately, I'm not ready to sign up yet. Okay. So while we're waiting for a couple other people, if we're lucky, what did I see recently? I just saw something I saw Eddington. I don't know if I talked about this or not. I enjoyed Eddington. I'm not going to give anything away, but if you've seen the trailer tells you that it's set right at the start of COVID, and you've got people in the community who are going nuts. I'm not wearing a mask. You got to wear a mask. So that stuff is like, okay, I don't want to live through that again. But then the story kicks in, and it gets really good. And performances are great. Pedro Pascal, it's always good to see him. But Joaquin Phoenix is spectacular in the film, and Emma Stone rather. Emma Stone always turns in a good performance. I like the fact that she keeps choosing challenging films and challenging directors to work with, like Yorgos Lanthimos, I think is his name, the guy who did Pretty Things and my favorite, The Lobster. I love The Lobster. Brilliant film. So I recommend this film if you are in an adventurous mood. It is the most mainstream film that Ari Aster has made. He made Hereditary, really fantastic horror film with an actress that I absolutely adore, one of my favorite actresses, and of course her name is right at the tip of my back of the skull. So Toni Collette. There you go. Hey, I did it. It's Toni Collette. Man, I think she's fantastic. Ever since the first thing I saw from her was like her breakthrough film, Muriel's Wedding, which I loved. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to check out anything that she does. And she rarely disappoints. So she's not in this film, Eddington, but she did star in Hereditary, and a really amazing performance. David Miscavige has a particular set of actors he appreciates: Tom Cruise, John Travolta, and Will Smith, oddly enough. Well, I have nothing against those actors. Here's the wise beard man, thumbs up or thumbs down. If you like adventurous film, it's a big thumbs up for me, this Eddington, I tell you. Of course, if you haven't seen Superman, come on. What's taking you so long? Kelly's got the trailer up there for Eddington. Thank you. But tonight won't be just any night because we didn't start on time. Tonight will be a technical mess. So I want to play this clip of Patty Moher talking about all her actions working for David Miscavige. David, you'll enjoy this, especially, I hope. All the covert activities that she did on behalf of the Office of Special Affairs in order to handle Bob Minton, and everything that we were up to at the Lisa McPherson Trust back in 2000. So why don't we take a look at that if we can? I've got it ready to go here. This is from 2011. It's Patty talking about her volunteer activities for OSA. And here we go.
Talk a little bit about sec checks to begin with.
Sec checks originally started out being called integrity processing and was actually an auditing action designed to have you give up your crimes or things you may have done that were harmful to other people or yourself. And this was supposed to be a confessional and to help you relieve you of this type of behavior, of whatever this was, and hopefully you would come to a realization about why you were doing these bad things, and you would stop and you would lead a better life. And it seemed like, that seems cool. And actually, at one point, after your confessional, the auditor would actually say something about, by the power invested in me, I forgive you, and you would be forgiven of these things. However, integrity processing was replaced with security checking, which had the purpose of finding out why you were doing bad things against the church, and was not considered auditing, was not confessional. You were held responsible for anything you said at the end of your session of your sec check. The auditor would write down all your crimes on a piece of paper and send that to the ethics officer, who would sit with you and go over each one, and you'd have to make it right. So if you stole from somebody, well, you may need to pay them back. Or if you lied, you may need to tell the truth. Or they would go after each specific thing. Sometimes sec checks are specific for your situation. Like if they think you're a criminal or you're a thief, they might ask specific questions. In order to get onto the OT levels, there's a very long sec check that questions your thoughts and your loyalty to the church and to Hubbard and to now Miscavige. And you have to get past that. And if you don't, you're not allowed onto the OT levels. And interestingly enough, in my sec check with that, I had been doing a lot of work for the church, for OSA, doing some pretty nasty stuff. And I gave those things up in my sec check, but they weren't on the list that needed to go to see the ethics officer because they really weren't crimes per the church. Although I considered them horrible things that I did to critics, and felt like I needed to confess those things, the church just checked it off like no problem.
Like what? What did you do?
Well, the fact that I had followed Bob Mitten around, and had
I mean, you physically followed him?
yeah, I followed him one time. He was leaving Boston. Well, the church had a 24/7 coverage on Bob. They had to know where he was every minute of the day. One time he was leaving Boston and flying to Clearwater. And I was called up real quick. You need to get to Logan Airport, be there before he gets there, make sure he gets on the flight. And when he gets on the flight, let us know, and then we'll pick him up in Clearwater. So I sat there at Logan. He came, I had his picture. I had never seen him before. I had his picture. I spotted him. I just sat there and ate some chowder, very unassuming looking lady, and watched him get on the plane. Another time he was down in some island in the Caribbean someplace, and they lost him. They were flipping out. They didn't know where he was. And so I called up his travel agent, who they knew, I guess it was his wife's travel agent. And I pretended to be his wife's close friend, said I'd gotten a referral, and I wanted to go where Bob and his wife went. Can you tell me what that place is? And she spit it out. She told me where it was, what it costs, gave me all the details. I told her I'd talk to my husband and get back to her, turn the information over to OSA. They found him and they went down there. I think they leafleted or something. They bothered him. They harassed him down there. So I would do things like that. I also infiltrated a squirrel group, or what they call a squirrel group, and hurt some feelings by doing that, hurt some people by doing that when I betrayed them and they found out I was a Scientologist. Stole trash. I mean, I did creepy things. And so when it came time to confess about, have you ever done such and such, have you ever harmed another or something, I would tell these stories. Well, yeah, I heard this guy, and I found out where he was in the church, and I felt bad about it. And they weren't, hey, no problem. That doesn't count as a crime. And it's like, wow, okay, that's nice. I can do all this rotten stuff for the church, but it's not a crime if it's for the church. But if I thought bad about David Miscavige, or I thought bad that I thought Hubbard was a joke or a jerk, well, you got some issues. And we got to take care of you. You got to take a look and do the doubt formula and find out what's really going on here with you. But commit crimes in the name of the church, or do bad things in the name of the church, no, that's not a security issue at all.
I just wanted to mention here, she was talking about using a suitable guise in order to get information, calling up the travel agent and say, oh, I'm a friend of Bob and Stacy's, and I want to go where they're going. What's the name of their place? I fell for that in like one of the first weeks or so at the LMT. I was one who I would normally be working late into the night doing video stuff. So I was alone there, and I think they realized, oh, here's an easy target. And I got a call one night from somebody saying, oh, we're having problems with, in our family, and I want to talk to somebody there at the Lisa McPherson Trust, but I don't know. So and so. Who is so and so talking to? I'd like to talk to them. And I said, I don't know who they're talking to, which was enough to acknowledge that this person was talking to someone at the Lisa McPherson Trust. And then that person who was talking to the LMT, they immediately came down hard on this person. So, suitable guises, that's, that's not changing. That's the same type of crap they pull all the time. Plus, there were also, I've heard, doing my interview with Matt Pesh around the same period, he was talking about, he would be writing out all the checks for stuff being done here at Flag. And there were checks being written to somebody who was working as a plant inside Scientology. And then he discovered, they're actually putting, for actions against the Lisa McPherson Trust, some acknowledgement of that on a check, and he put a stop to that immediately. So there were probably one or two people who got inside. We certainly had volunteers who just, like, there's one old guy right at the beginning who just came in every day and sat in the office, just sat there all day long, watching who came in and who came out. Okay, all right. But back to Patty, shall we? Oop, I gotta come over here.
That's good. That counts as a plus for me.
Did you know about Bob Minton when you were sent to the airport? Or what were you aware of?
Well, this is actually, Bob Minton is responsible for me getting out of Scientology to a very huge degree, because what first happened when Bob and the LMT were formed, my friend at OSA named Mary Frances Newey, now goes by Mary Stinson. She has a whole new name, and I found her on Facebook. Anyway, she called me, and as what we would do is we would meet. It was always very complicated. She'd call me, and then I'd have to go to a phone booth, and then she'd call that phone booth. I mean, because we couldn't have any track of her and I doing anything. So I'd go to a phone booth, she'd call me, and we'd discuss what she needed. And what she needed was, there was this new organization called LMT being formed in Clearwater, and I needed to be briefed on them because I was going to do some stuff for her. So I said, well, what are they all about? She says, well, they have something on the internet. Go on the internet and put in LMT and see what you see. She says, oh, they're going to have their mission statement. She says, go read their mission statement. So I read it, and I'm thinking, wow, look at all this stuff. Because one of the things about me being a Scientologist, I always loved N-Theta. But that was the whole thing. I mean, I enjoyed reading the N-Theta, but I was such a cultist, I could read it and it not affect me. But I liked knowing what the enemy was saying, but it never got through my Scientology filter. And so I read this and I'm like, wow, this is kind of interesting. A whole new world of like SPs to look at. And I called her back, said, okay, I get what they're about. She says, well, what I need you to do is call them up and get them on the phone. And we want to tie up their phone lines with ridiculous phone calls. So we made up a story about my sister being a cultist in the Wiccan cult, which isn't too far from the truth. And made up a story, and I was just supposed to talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. Wow, that got old real fast. I didn't want to do that. I was like, this is no fun. I don't want to do this, Mary. I did it once. I got Bob on the phone. He was very nice, but I'm like, I don't see this getting anywhere tying up their phone line. So, and I was the type of person, and Mary was good enough that she understood if I thought it was a dumb idea, I wasn't going to do it. So that was my introduction to the LMT. Well, what happened after that is
Well, before we find out what happened after that, let me just say that she was not the only one. Oop, come on, where am I? Boom, there I am. Let me just say she wasn't the only one who was tying up her phone lines. I remember Stacy coming out of her office going, wow, these people really want to talk. I mean, they've got so many stories in it. So those type of things did take up a lot of our time. Responding to all the legal stuff that was going on, I would have to turn over videos that were shot for some, whatever nonsense that Scientology was taking us to court over. And all of that was just, pointless busy work that kind of slowed us down, but didn't stop us. It took a couple of years before Miscavige actually stopped us by, taking on, freezing Bob's money across the globe, and that kind of did it. And David, I think you're being a little too harsh here. She was never a real Scientologist, absolutely dreadful and suppressive behavior. That's the type of thing that you say when somebody has said they don't want to be in Scientology anymore, David. That doesn't mean that what you're saying is true, although what's true for you is true. Only for you. All right. Well, Patty has more to talk about here, and let's get back to that, shall we?
I started like peeking on the internet and looking at little different things, and I found this on Deja News, this alt religion Scientology, and I started reading, and I was just the whole world opened up at that point. But the whole idea was with LMT was to stop them in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I remember Stacy would often say, "Oh, I'm on the phone with these people, and they talk and talk, and it's you, I can't, get off the phone."
Yeah, they just tie them up with all this ridiculous stuff. It's like it was silly, but it was totally the way they operate. Let's tie them up and get them to not, to have useless time, so they really can't do anything about Scientology.
Well, I mean, that and so many other things they did to waste their time. Well, they were constantly in court, and it was a hassle responding to every subpoena that they gave to us. And
yeah.
Anyway,
so I'm jumping back and forth here, and I just repeated myself. Somebody asked, Neuropsych 93 asked, can you explain OSA volunteer? Well, yeah, Tori was an OSA volunteer. Is somebody who, a public member, generally who Scientology says, we need you to do something for us. And they give them some dirty work to do without really filling them in on all the nastiness that the Office of Special Affairs does, and they're just a cog in the machinery, not knowing what anybody else is doing, but just reporting back on what they accomplished. Like Tori, they had her flying around the country with cash to go to different cities to open up an internet account with cash that could be traced, giving a fake name and a fake address, and so that then she could get that login information back to OSA, and then OSA had other people who were using those accounts that she opened up in Chicago and Philadelphia and wherever they flew her. What an enormous waste of money. But they would have other people online just spamming the news group, Alt Religion Scientology, trying to make it unreadable. So anyone who did stumble into this clearinghouse of information of former members talking about their experiences, sharing information about the bridge, talking about Xenu. Scientology tried to delete that entire news group from the internet back in 1995, and that failed and caused a lot of free speech advocates to get up in arms about Scientology. Like, that's how Bob Minton got interested. Scientology canceled the news group, and he went, what? And started looking into it, meeting some Scientologists and saying, oh, this is wrong. Let me see what I can do to kind of balance things out here between, the regular folk out in the world and the giant Scientology organization with their vast wealth. But David Miscavige has a different view on this. His only thought is Scientology is about helping the able. So I assume there's a reason we couldn't help her. Well, you're not being very charitable. I would hope that you would be a little bit nicer to her. After all she did for you. Anyway, that's what a OSA volunteer is, doing some of Scientology's dirty work without getting paid. Hey, how about that? Okay, I know there's more here. Let me get this started. Oh, I got it. Bouncing back and forth between these pages here on the net, it's annoying. Let me bring her up. And let me start her playing.
So that I was going to save all that till the end of.
All right,
but
go back.
No, it was good. So OSA, a Guardian's office, rather.
Mm-hmm.
The Guardian's office at one point turned into the Office of Special Affairs. Were you working for it around that time?
I had just left about 6 months before then. Actually, I had a bad parting with the Guardian's office. I was at the end of my contract, and Mary Sue had been sent to jail, I believe. And there was a lot going on, and I was still very much a true blue, sort of like a Marty type Scientologist, where I believed in the tech. And I made a statement to my closest friend, Maureen O'Keefe, that I thought the Guardian's office was a suppressive group. And next thing I knew, I was shown the door and allowed to finish my contract at the school, at the local Apple school, which then became a Delphi Academy. But because I was I became disenfranchised with the church. This is obviously prior to me looking at the internet, based on some stuff that was going on internally. And I thought, this is very, very bad. The church is.
What?
There was a lot of money being recruited, a lot of money being asked for by Mary Sue and Jane Kemver and all these people who had done the stolen government documents. There were all kinds of orders coming down that were unrealistic, and we were being hammered. It was this heavy force that you see nowadays, like times 20, but the heavy force started coming down the lines, and I didn't like it. And as a matter of fact, the turning point for me, and where I really lost my integrity to the church, was a program came down from worldwide for my area, saying it was about making a halfway house for Narconon. And there was already a halfway house there. But this was to implement all these new targets. It was written by somebody in England for this program in Connecticut. And as I'm reading it, I realized that this put into effect would destroy Narconon. And so I wrote back on it. No, this is no good. Doesn't work. And I wasn't even particularly nice about it. I did my basically who Patty is and just sort of grouched at it. And my boss sent it back and said, no, you can't send this up. It's not nice enough. And I'm like, what do you mean not nice enough? It's like, this program's going to destroy this. And I had to spend a lot of time trying to word this so as not to offend the nincompoops who were writing it. And I had a hard time with that. And I finally did it. But I thought, this is what it's all about? Yeah, this is what Scientology is all about? Is somebody sending me something insane to do, and it's going to destroy what I put there? And now I have to be nice and tell them? And I'm like, And that was that was my first little break of like, this doesn't make sense. Because Scientology is all supposed to be about effective and doing it right. And, everybody's able and everybody's smart and everybody knows how to do things right, if you're, especially the guys in upper management. And I'm like, whoa, this isn't right. And that and all the force, the threatening things to get done. And I was like, no, this isn't the Scientology I signed up for. And so I finished off my contract and I stayed away I had a child. I stayed away for a good 3 or 4 years. And during that time, OSA, the Guardian's office was disbanded, which sort of proved me right that it was a suppressive group, but not for the right reasons. And OSA was formed with promises of, we're not anything like them. And so when I was finally called back in to work for OSA, it was like, oh, we don't do that stuff anymore. We're a whole different organization. And I bought it because they were my friends, and I was still in my heart a Scientologist and wanted Scientology to expand.
Did you see any operational differences when you came back?
Yes, they used PIs more to do things rather than do it themselves. So instead of having Scientologists infiltrate like an organization or go steal something, they would have a lawyer get a PI to do it so that they could distance themselves from the crime. I know one time I was sitting with Mary Frances and I had a somebody's telephone directory that they had stolen. And I said, well, where did this come from? Like, how did we get this? And she's like, oh, no. A PI got that for us. So it's like, we didn't do it. It was sort of that whole thing about like with knocking on it. We're not really Scientology. There's this corporation there that makes us legally separate. Well, we got a PI there who does these things. Or, well, how are we going to find out, what this guy's credit card information is all about? Oh, we have a PI who does that. Or somebody's phone bill. We have a PI who does that. So instead of a Scientologist getting someone in the phone company to turn over the information, they use PIs. That was the only difference I saw. There's really.
And yet you yourself, you said you infiltrated a squirrel group.
Yep.
And you did all of these other dirty tricks as a volunteer.
Mm-hmm. Because I truly believed that mankind would do better with Scientology, with the Scientology experience, with people having Scientology in their life. I truly, deep in my heart, felt that way. And so anything went as far, unless it was, I did have my own personal line. One time, Mary Frances called me up and said, we want you to call Bob's wife and tell her that Stacy was sleeping at her house with Bob on Beacon Hill. So as the purpose was to get Bob's wife pissed off enough that she would turn on Bob and come to OSA and give OSA information. And I said, no, I'm not doing that. No, I'm not doing that. That was my, like, I'm not messing with this guy's wife. She's not in the fight. She's just married to him. And and I said to Mary, come on, that's really skanky thing to do to a woman. And she's like, yeah, I know, but we need to like, yeah, well, I'll find another way because I'm not doing that. So I did draw the line, certainly, for my own personal, like, yuck involved, but certainly stealing trash or betraying people who I befriended and got information about them for the lawyers for Scientology to get rid of squirrels. I mean, yeah, that was fine because it was expanding Scientology and these people were no good. But I did have, at least I did have some sort of line.
Well, when Scientology says we've changed, have they really?
No, there's no change. It was just a new group of people running the whole thing, and actually they just got a little more clever about how they did it. That's all. Just they separated themselves away from the crime.
You mentioned Mary Sue being arrested, and these other top officials went to prison too. What was your reaction to this? I mean, how did you hear the news, and what were you told?
Well, I was told that that one guy named Michael Meisner, I believe his name was GO in DC, had violated policy and was so desperate to get the information for Snow White because there was this order from Mary Sue. I don't care what you got to do. Let's just get this information. And so the guy was at his wit's end, didn't really know how to get the information. So he committed what's called an unusual solution. That's Scientology's way of saying that you didn't have a good solution. So you have an unusual solution that might have some criminal activity in it, but you did it, but your heart was basically good. So this Michael Meisner committed this unusual solution by stealing something and then put the whole church at risk because of that and brought down everybody above him on the chain of command. And he was basically not a bad guy at first, but, you know, as in Scientology, the perfect justifier for Scientology is we build a world with broken straws. And so that was whenever Scientologists commit a crime or Scientologists do anything really bad, somebody will always say, we build a world with broken straws. That's a quote from Hubbard, to explain away or to make excuses as to why you did it. And that was what had happened. And Mary Sue had to take the blame because she was at the top of the food chain.
But Hubbard was really at the top.
Oh, he was, but you would never, no one ever thought that he was involved. Or if they did, you would just like block that out of your mind that Hubbard knew what was going on, because we all thought that Hubbard was off writing books and researching and having fun, doing whatever he was doing, making himself more and more OT and setting the way to us all to be free.
That his wife could be involved in all of these crimes and he'd have no knowledge.
Well, yeah, exactly. Because it was, well, one of the things about OSA and the Guardian's Office, which might make you think this, is the way they compartmentalize all their operations. I could be involved in doing something against Bob Minton, and there could be 4 or 5 other volunteers who are also involved, but I wouldn't know what they're doing. I would have no idea. The only person who knew what I was doing was my direct superior and their direct superior and their direct up to Mary Sue or whoever it was that's running the show. You don't talk about it with other people. Nobody else knows what you're doing in the Guardian's Office, especially when it's covert activity. The other Guardian's Office members don't know. My direct senior would be the only one, but not my people to the side of me would have no idea what was going on. So it made sense that she might keep stuff from him to protect him.
All right. Well, I hope you found that interesting. I certainly appreciated Patty sitting down to tell me her whole story. We talked for about 2 hours, and that this is the first big chunk of it that I've put online. I'm going back to all of these interviews, and I'll bring them all out because there's a lot of fascinating stuff buried in there. And I appreciated Patty speaking to me also because when there was this rift after Bob was, his money was frozen, and he was crying uncle, and he made a settlement with Scientology. There were a lot of people really upset about it, and Patty was one of those. And there was a bunch of people in a private chat room that I came to occasionally, but once everything kind of blew up, it got really nuts. So if I was there, I was an OSA spy, and I posted some court document from the Lisa McPherson civil case, and everyone thought that I edited this thing because there were like certain points. Instead of 1 through 10, it was maybe 1, 3, 7, 8, 9 were listed there. So, Bunker's doing Scientology's job and deleting these things and editing it for Scientology. No, that's the way it was in the in the story. I mean, in the filings. So, at any rate, she also was part of the cadre of people who got the Tom Cruise videotape and got that leaked on the net. And ultimately, because the guy who did video, these folks who were still pretty mad at me said, hey, how do we get this onto the net for journalists who should be seeing this? So I put it on a private channel with links that weren't public. So you could send it to just a journalist as a source where they can watch it, download it, do whatever they want with it. I didn't want to put up Scientology copyrighted material at that point, because that was something that they were raiding people's homes over. So she got that to me, and I converted it on the computer, uploaded it, sent the links to everybody, and it got over to, I think the first website was Gawker, put up the video, and in the comment section, it said, "Oh my God, who put this up?" And Mark Ebner was in the comments. It was Mark Bunker. He did it, and that freaked me out. That immediately, I was named in this thing, so I took it down from the internet. I said, "Oh no!" And that's when Gawker and these other sites were going, "Oh, that didn't take long. Scientology took down this video already." Well, no, it was my fear of Scientology that forced me to do it. Later that night, I put everything back up again, sent it specifically to Keith Olbermann's producer, because Keith had been doing a lot of stuff goofing on Scientology. And ultimately, the only newscast that never used any of that footage was the Keith Olbermann show. Countdown. But there's a lot of, and I mentioned something in my documentary. I think I talk about the fact that I leaked the Tom Cruise video, and Patty and others were justifiably angry that I was trying to take all credit for it, and that was my intent. So I went back and tried to tell the whole tale of how this came to me and what my little part of it was, but. I mean, when that Tom Cruise tape went throughout the entire universe, for 1 week, it was on every newscast everywhere. Everyone was goofing on it. And finally, on Friday night, I finally sat down and was watching 2020, who was doing a segment on it. And I looked over at my computer on the floor over there. And that tape came from that computer. But it actually came from Patty and all the other folks working with Patty to get the tape to me. There you go. I hope you found that interesting. What? Hey, Hey, I'm sorry. I have to stop this right now. Russ T says, good movie, The Bombardment. Bad movies, Mother. Okay, well, I'm not crazy about Mother. I did enjoy watching everybody walk out in the last few minutes of the film. The Lobster is a brilliant film. How dare you? Mad Dog Morgan, I haven't seen. Bad movies. WTF is this meaninglessness? Is WTF a movie? I don't know. The Lobster. If you don't like The Lobster, good Lord. That is such a brilliant film. I haven't decided what animal I would like to be, though. I was thinking chipmunk. No, squirrel. Squirrel. I like squirrels. I got a lot of squirrels running around the neighborhood here. I think it'd be fun if the whole point of a lobster is it's this surreal story about, okay, you have to find somebody to marry. They take you to this institute and they kind of give you a chance to meet people. And within 30 days, you have to find somebody to love and get married, or else we're going to have to turn you into an animal. But they give you the option to choose what animal that you want. And this guy says, well, I'd like to be a lobster. I'm not sure that that's the choice that I or many other people would make, but it is, I think it's a great movie. I never tire of watching it. So if worse comes to worse, squirrel. Okay. And how appropriate would that be too, with the Scientology's hatred of squirrels? Okay, sure. You can say this, but The Lobster makes plenty of sense, and there's a great story there. I will not defend Mother. It's a film that I wish I loved. I do not. The only other film I can remember watching the entire audience flee from was Chris Elliott's movie. What's the name of that? Oh, God, what? Cabin Boy. Cabin Boy, I saw when it came out, big theater in Pasadena. And throughout the entire movie, you would see people getting up and storming out of the place. And I was one of the last remaining folks in this big, fairly empty theater. But I think there's a lot of really good stuff in Cabin Boy. And I like the idea of it. Certainly not a great movie, but it was a fun movie. The Lobster is a movie, yes. So Chad B says, Aaron caught Dan Murnan on video a couple of weeks ago. Looked like he's alive and living in Clearwater. Yes to both. I've known that he is alive, and he is not living terribly far away from me. I think maybe 10 blocks or so away from where I live. I have not gone over to knock on his door and welcome him to the neighborhood. Auditing Scientology was accused of being a squirrel by Scientologist Osa Matt. Lobster is a movie. Hit that by accident. Yes, The Lobster is a movie. Well worth checking out. The probably the most mainstream film that Yorgos made was The Favorite, which was a very funny film about a Daffy Queen of England, I believe, and the two women who were kind of vying for her attention. I don't remember that much about it, except that it was a great film and a breakthrough film for this wonderful actress who's terrific and whose name I know. I'm just not telling you. That's all. I refuse to tell you her name. But she is starring in a new film with Benedict Cumberbatch. I'll tell you his name because that will help you find the film, because I can't remember her name. But I adore her. But this was a laugh out loud funny trailer for their new film. I know somebody's going to do a quick search for Benedict Cumberbatch's new film. Not yet out, but the trailer for this movie had me laughing out loud throughout the entire trailer. And Benedict is married to this brilliant actress who's one of my favorites, whose name I just refuse to tell you. But I'm looking forward very much to that. It's a very, very dark comedy, apparently, with an all-star cast. A lot of funny people in it. Russ T says, I watched all of Mother and The Lobster because of who was acting in them. I stayed to the end thinking there must be some good part. I was disappointed. Well, I would share your disappointment in Mother. Even the actress who stars in Mother, who was at that point in a relationship with the writer-director of the film, even she, whose name, of course, I also know, and I don't want to make this easy for you, so I'm simply not going to tell you her name. But even she said, I don't know, I was sleeping with the guy. I have no idea what was going on there. And then when I actually read what it was about later, you go, oh, okay, I don't know how you're supposed to get that from watching the film. There were interesting elements of it, like this actress, Olivia Colman. Oh, for heaven's sakes, I was trying not to say her name, trying so hard not to say Olivia Colman's name, but I guess I have to. Thank you. Yes, Olivia Colman was the star of The Favorite. I think won an Oscar for it. And she's the star of this new film with Benedict Cumberbatch, or Cumberbatch Benedict. I don't know. Sophie Hunter, I don't know. The Bombardment, also called The Shadow in My Eye, is a Danish film. A bit of subtitles required, but not too much. Best movie in 9 or 13 movies. Wow. All right, I'll check that out. Well, The Lobster is not a series. It's just one film, The Lobster. And, this is a director now. Anything he does, I want to see. Although not everything, I have not loved everything that he's done. He followed up The Lobster with, what was the name of this? It was a film that Nicole Kidman starred in. And it was just wacky. It's about this kid who kind of gets involved with his family, and wacky things happen to the family members. I don't want to say any more about it. Interesting film. But, how can you beat The Lobster? Lobster has this wonderful romantic story to it. Find somebody to fall in love with in 30 days, or we'll turn you into an animal. Neuropsych, a real movie buff, would be familiar with Yorgos Lanthimos and his oeuvre. So speaking of the oeuvre, I've been listening to a lot of books on tape, and it drives me nuts when the person reading the book just mispronounces something horribly. And that happened recently. I'm listening to the biography of Lorne Michaels, creator, producer of Saturday Night Live. It's the first time he's sat down to tell his story in the 50 years of SNL. And it's been really interesting. But she's talking at one point about a sketch that he and his partner wrote for Canadian TV, which had a Cyclops in it. And she talked about, and it involved a Cyclops. No, there's not anybody in the control room to say, excuse me, let's roll that back. Let's take that again. It's Cyclops. Oh, thank you. Cyclops. I hear these type of things all the time. It's like, please. Or you know, one of the Star Trek audiobooks I listened to about the making of this, and there'd be a character that name was completely mispronounced. I don't remember who now. It's not like Spock was mispronounced, but something that somebody should have known. They said, hey, no, let's try that again. That's just me. There may be other people who just say, maybe it's a Cyclops. Huh? Hey, Laura's here. Hey, how about that? Hi to you. Nice to see you. Professor Kakan has popped in as well. Hello, Professor. Oops, where'd you go? There you are. All right. Well, you folks are in time for me to wind this thing down. Because I have shown a brilliant video, which I'll publish right after this. So if you just want to watch the 20 minutes of content that was worth watching tonight, instead of me babbling about movies, you can just watch that file. But I always like, chatting with you. And The Killing of a Sacred Deer, that's the name of the film that I'm not crazy about it, but there are a lot of fascinating elements in it. And, this young guy who starred in it as the troubled young man in the film has certainly become one of the hottest young actors around right now, with all the films that he keeps appearing in. Hail Emperor Xenu, and hail his sword-jawed courtier, the trillion-year-old clam, says the Elk of Antioch. Kelly wants to know if you'd all be interested in a movie chat night. I turn pretty much every night into that, but yeah, that's something that I'd like to do. Just talk about movies and TV. I want to get this young guy involved in as well. A generational thing. He's the son of my campaign manager from my last race, big movie buff, and he's watching like 5 movies a day, and I recognize in him that fervor that I had as a kid, wanting to devour all of these things. So I asked him a long time ago, hey, you want to do one of these live things and talk about movies? So I think it'd be nice to see the generational thing as well. And Lara's all up for that. Thank you. Let me go back here. Okay, Olivia Colman. All right. Well, there you go. Yorgos, who made The Lobster, now Emma Stone's in all of his films. She's become part of his acting repertory company. There's been, like, I think 3 films in a row now that she's been in for him, and working on a 4th one right now. Elk, You're asking questions of a young man that should not be asked, I tell you. 5 movies a day. Are those fully clothed movies? Yes, they are. He's just a fervent buff who's excited about. I just watched 12 Angry Men. It was amazing. It was a great film. So seeing it for the first time, that's nice that, this 1960 film or whatever it is, really hit him. And I said, if you like that, you should watch To Kill a Mockingbird. You'd love To Kill a Mockingbird. And he watched it and went, it's no 12 Angry Men. So, anyway, he's, I think it'd be interesting to have him on here, talk about it. I have not been able to watch movies like that in a long time. I haven't even been able to, to watch many of the TV shows that I like to watch. Star Trek Strange New Worlds is back, and I'm enjoying that. I love that. And I just started watching This Is Us, which finally, after years and years of hearing it was great, I sat down to watch the first couple of episodes of it. And it is amazingly good. I can't believe it's network TV. I stopped watching network TV decades ago. I always assume that if it's on the network, it's going to be really dumbed down, and it's not going to be as good as something that you'll find on a cable channel, not just HBO, but even on AMC when they were doing Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. Those shows would not have worked out. They would not have existed on the network. It would have been canceled after 13 weeks. So I figured, sure, This Is Us is good, but I mean, how good could it be? And I'm watching it. I was like, man, it's good. But I haven't had a chance to watch much of it. AT Chick has had enough. Saying good night to you. And I think we should all be bidding a fond farewell and calling it a night. Otherwise, I'm just going to sit here and babble about movies and TV shows for another 4 hours. And that's, we don't need that. Just, dish it out a little at a time. To Kill a Mockingbird is a great movie. If you live under a rock, Gone with the Wind is great. I'm not exactly sure what that means. If you live under a rock, there's a lot to love about Gone with the Wind still, even though it's somewhat troublesome. Here's the deal. It is hard to watch some old with characters like Stepin Fetchit. And what amazes me is there was a black independent film industry, a low budget industry, but there are a lot of black actors and directors who got together in the 20s and 30s and said, well, let's make our own films. And I admired that. And I've watched a few of them, but what's amazing is that even they would have somebody like Stepin Fetchit in their film as well. It's comic relief. It's like, I remember when I was a kid probably like high school, junior high or high school, Bill Cosby had done a movie about black images throughout the history of the cinema and TV and radio. And it was very interesting. So, there I am off on a tangent. But I always admired that about these folks who said, okay, we can't break into the industry. Let's create our own industry. Let's see. Not politically correct, but it's still a great movie. They put a preface on it on TMC. Yeah. 7 Chances. I love that film. And that's the thing, you know, you see blackface, and it's like so jarring. Seven Chances I remember just for the brilliance of the scene where I don't know if you've seen this Buster Keaton film. It's one of his silent classics. There's the whole plot of it is he's going to inherit a fortune if he's married by the time he's 30 or whatever, and his birthday is like the next couple of days, and or the clock is ticking, so he's got to find somebody. And eventually, after being turned down by everybody, he puts out an ad in a newspaper and says, "I'll be waiting at the chapel at this time, at this chapel, if you want to get married." And he's mentioned in the ad that, yeah, there'll be a fortune if I get married. So he's sleeping on the front pew as the entire chapel fills up with women of all ages and sizes in wedding gowns, and they fill all the bleachers, all the rows behind him, and standing room only in there. When he wakes up and kind of notices what he's in for here, he makes a run for it, and then there's this great chase where they're chasing him through the streets. And Keaton was just brilliant guy. So if you haven't seen Seven Chances, give it a shot. It's a take on the short film he made called Cops, where essentially it's the same type of thing. He pissed off a cop, and pretty soon every cop in the city is following him, and there's all sorts of creative things of how he's trying to get away from them. Great stuff. Can't go wrong with Buster Keaton, I tell you. Anyway, okay, all right. Let's call it a night, shall we? I had fun. And I hope that things were not too glitchy. I know that I saw some comments that I was freezing. You're trying to get that working. Trying desperately to get the streaming properly again. Let me see if I can think of the folks you're talking about here before I go, because I'm pretty sure I know who you're talking about. They danced with Gene Kelly in The Pirate, and they were fantastic. The Nicholas Brothers. Haven't lost it entirely. The Nicholas Brothers are. No, the Mills Brothers is a musical group, but the Nicholas Brothers are amazing dancers. And because they were black, they couldn't star in films. They could be featured players, just like Lena Horne. Lena, who would have been more amazing on screen than Lena Horne, who appeared in a bunch of films, but just as a person singing one song in the film, nothing that they would build a story around. And what a criminal waste of talent like that. But the Nicholas Brothers, unbelievable dancers, and Gene Kelly insisted that they be involved in this big number that he was shooting in The Pirate, even though it's the first time that the studio had allowed black dancers to dance with a white star. And Gene Kelly said, no, these guys are great, and they are great. And there's just a number of films where you can see them doing, just a random number inside a movie. A lot of stuff, especially during World War II, when a lot of folks were overseas. There were a whole lot of films that were, hey, it's a review. Let's bring out this star and that star to support the effort. All right, that's it. Hey, thank you. I was correct. Finally, I was correct about the Nicholas brothers. That is it then. I'm gonna quit when I'm ahead. Watch 7 Chances and check out the Nicholas brothers on YouTube. Just type it in, Nicholas brothers, and you'll be delighted. All right. And I will see you again soon. Okay. Normally you would see my end song here, but it's not going to happen because I cleared the cache and everything's gone. But I will say good night and have a pleasant tomorrow.
What are your crimes, Mark? Yes, what are your crimes, Mark? Your crimes are hidden, they should be seen. Spin all out, Mark, and just come clean.